Oh, it's finally free, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday there was a big state of play from old PlayStation, and while nothing really just tickled my pickle, so to speak, there was one game that I was waiting for, man, for years. Metal Gear Solid 4. Now I love this game. I made a whole 4-hour video on it. And yesterday, it's crazy to say, man. Sometimes you look at something, you think, is this a dream? No, it's not a dream, boys. It's on Steam. Somehow this game has been freed from the system, freed from the PlayStation 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't even think I need an emulator anymore. I should just do. Wait, hold on. Sly Cooper's still a thing. No, we'll keep that on the side. But I don't need it to emulate Metal Gear Solid 4 as of August. Now, there's a big thing for me talking about this because ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my favorite games, okay? I know for a lot of Metal Gear fans, they're like, story doesn't make any sense. It's like walking into a Fast and the Furious premiere, okay? You can't really expect this to make sense. This is a mess. It's a beautiful, fan servicey mess for the people that have stuck around with one of gaming's best franchises, right? If you ever played Metal Gear as a kid, this is probably one of the sweetest ways to end this off on. Now, yesterday they announced, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2. Now, I kind of expected this to be on the way, but, Konami's been a little hush-hush, and can we just say that Konami's kind of firing off on a lot of cylinders lately? They've been making them Silent Hill games. I guess they've been paying attention to Metal Gear. So let's pay attention. August 27th, we get Metal Gear Solid Volume 2. So you get Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, The Senior Citizen That Just Won't Die, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. So basically 2 games, well, technically 3, if we're going to be counting a Game Boy Color game, which we should. But anyways, I wanted to look at a little bit of this because it's just surreal to finally see something escape. This is basically for a lot of the Bloodborne people, when Bloodborne PC, this is effectively Bloodborne for the PC for me. So anyways, going down, it's coming out on both Nintendo Switches. Somehow the Switch 1 is going to be running Metal Gear Solid 4 and Peace Walker. I'd love to actually pick up a copy just for the original Switch to see how that plays well. You know what I mean? Get that original PS3 frame rate. It's coming out for the PS5, somehow not the PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam. So immediately looking at the Switch version, doesn't contain anything but the game key card. Well, PlayStation 5, whole thing on the disc. Xbox, not a single physical copy. That is so fucking sad to see. Anyways, though, ladies and gentlemen, there's some concerns that I have with Metal Gear Solid 4. For instance, now that it's releasing on the Xbox, I wonder how Kojima's not even involved. I wonder how Konami's going to handle that scene where they basically balls to the wall, get on their knees and suck off the PS3.
Hold it, Snake. Time to change the disc. I know, it's a pain. But you need to swap disc 1 for disc 2. You see the disc labeled 2?
No.
Huh? Oh, wait. We're on PlayStation 3. It's a Blu-ray disc. Dual layered, too. No need to swap.
Damn it, Otacon! Get a grip!
Yeah, what an age we live in, huh, Snake? Wonder what they'll think of next.
Is they gonna get Otacon to redo his lines? I don't know. There's a couple other things too that I wonder are gonna make the cut. This is one of those games where product placement, especially when it comes to Japanese games, are a huge thing. There's a lot of MacBooks flying around. There's a lot of product placement, like the iPod, for instance, that Snake can listen to that reduces his in-game stress. Yeah, when you're stressed out in Metal Gear Solid 4, you can just whack on some music, or you can literally just whack off in the game to get rid of your stress. Yes, that is a thing. There's many things that you can do in Metal Gear Solid 4 that are a little bit shocking to the average gamer. But yeah, it's a huge game with a lot of content, and unfortunately, one of the things that's not going to make it is probably the multiplayer for Metal Gear Solid 4. So what they kind of talk about over here is when it comes to MGS4 in particular, they're going to upscale the actual game a little bit. So obviously you can imagine that things like the resolution and the frame rate are going to be up there, but things like the actual multiplayer, don't really appear in this entire situation. And I kind of expected that. A lot of these remasters that come out typically axe the multiplayer component, like we saw it with Red Dead Redemption, and we're going to unfortunately see it with this. Now, the big thankful part about this is it's not a full-priced release. It's actually like $10 less than the last Master Collection, which, you know, I guess is fine for like 2 games, right? Technically. So, of course, if you look at the online, you can still play MGS4 online. You just have to do it through an emulator. Like you can see over here at Save MGO, these are the only people that, like 91 people right now as I'm recording this are playing this game. And you can see that all these people are lined up playing together online. I really wish Konami kind of would bring back the actual multiplayer for this, but they're probably not, considering that it's probably too much of an ask. The fact that we're getting Metal Gear Solid 4 on PC anyways is impressive, and I can only see that if the game does release and somehow they have the multiplayer files still in MGS4, they might somehow leave those accessible. I wonder how they're going to handle the actual screen that's installing the game, considering that we're not going to be doing that. Is it just going to turn into a compiling shaders for the PC? That would be interesting to see. Now, Peace Walker is the other exciting game too. If you ever played Peace Walker, it's like the PSP Metal Gear Solid game that was released after 4, and it's kind of the precursor to Metal Gear Phantom Pain. So you basically run around collecting soldiers, building up your army, and taking on missions. So this, thankfully, actually has the multiplayer component left in. So they said you can play with up to 2 to 4 people online, and me and Amaru definitely said we are fucking playing this game together, okay? We tried playing this on Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker, like the PS3 emulator through the emulated online component, which would work exceptionally well on. So hopefully it works just even better here through like Steam or just like PlayStation Network. You know, like normal people would play the game, not nut jobs. So that'll actually work fine. The other actual release for this is pretty sweet too. It's Metal Gear Ghost Babel, so they did include the 3rd game. Now this is a Game Boy Color game, and for anybody that hasn't played this, imagine back in the day, right? And back in the day, it used to happen a lot, like big PlayStation, Nintendo releases used to be scrunched down for the Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color. And sometimes they were really great ports, sometimes they were really like impressive. So they took the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 1 and kind of scrunched it down to Game Boy Color. And it's probably one of the best handheld sort of games that I've played. I actually really like Metal Gear Ghost Babel, so to see it brought into this collection is pretty damn incredible to see. The only thing that didn't make the cut, what versus battle mode, which is, you know, where you link the Game Boys together, and I don't think they were ever even intending to do that shit to begin with. But yeah, technically you get 3 games, one of them is just a Game Boy Color title, and yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. So ultimately, I gotta be completely real with you, Metal Gear Solid 4 is escaping the clutches. And for a while, I used to actually try to play this game on the actual Steam Deck, and you can see gameplay of it right here, provided by Not a Game Addict, and he shows the game running at like 20 frames per second. Now, unless you get things like lossless scaling, you can frame gen to like 40, maybe 60, it'll still play like ass, but this is the closest I was able to play portable Metal Gear Solid 4. Now, with the PC version, you can probably play it at 60, maybe even 90 frames on the actual deck, which is pretty much what I'm excited for. This basically means that I can install every single Metal Gear game and play it in bed, okay? Just like how I always wanted, you know, just literally right up there with my deck, okay? TV can be used by the significant other or anybody else. I can just sit there with the actual... I can play this shit on a plane now without the frame rate running at 20. And ultimately, the best part about it is because of the PC, you know, mods are going to be a thing. I hope that eventually there might be the multiplayer service brought back via mods. But even if not, just having access to things that can run ultra wide, you know, just a superior experience is probably all you need. This is still one of those games that is super duper difficult to emulate on the actual PlayStation 3, to the point that even on my PC, I can't run it at perfectly 60 frames per second, okay? And it is one of those ports where I thought it was going to be impossible, because I guess it was something that was so heavily designed for the PlayStation 3 system that, you know, nobody really expected it to just be ported over. Again, even under Konami, they were probably like, why even bother? finally, for the first time, Metal Gear Solid 4, a game that was basically hard locked to the PlayStation 3, is available on PC and pretty much everything else. It's kind of like a Red Dead Redemption situation where, like, for a while, people used to use emulators specifically just to play Red Dead, and now you can play that shit on a fucking cell phone. It's been ported everywhere. So it's great to see Metal Gear Solid 4 just basically escape its system. And I'm just interested to see how they're going to handle some of the changes in the game to reflect. I mean, there's literally an actual thing in the game called the Metal Gear Mark II where Snake controls it with an actual DualSense controller. So are they going to replace it with DualShock controller? Are they going to replace it with a PS5 controller? Is they going to replace it with an Xbox controller? Is Snake going to stick a Joy-Con in his ass? Find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty fucking ready for this. I'm actually pretty excited. This is the one thing that I was hoping for. Like, I finally don't have to whip out the emulator to play Metal Gear Solid 4. I can finally just download it off Steam or just whip out the disc and play it on my PlayStation 5 like a normal person. And with a better frame rate and better resolution, what more does a boy need? So yeah, ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, Metal Gear Solid 4 has escaped the clutches. And yeah, it's finally showing up. The Master Collection is out. Ultimately, the future of it is something that, I do want to kind of talk about just a little bit before we end off. After Metal Gear Solid Volume 2, I don't know if they're going to be doing Volume 3, but I imagine they may, just to kind of tie it off as like a trilogy re-release set. So, there is one game missing. Obviously, the price has been a little lowered, but, I think for some people, they probably do want the third game, and I think they're saving that for something like Metal Gear Rising, which somebody mocked up on the Reddit over here, which MGS Rising, or Metal Gear Rising, is one of those games that's sort of been like a fan favorite lately. Like, a lot of people have been really enjoying it. It's actually a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 4 story-wise. It's just one of those games where it's more about the hack and slash gameplay than the stealth shit. There are stealth segments, like 2, but yeah, it's one of those things where I imagine if they're going to make a volume 3, they're probably going to save this game for that, and then probably bundle it with something like Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain or Ground Zeroes for people that, just want to get that final, complete part of the Metal Gear story, because literally it's this game that is the actual conclusion. And again, one of the things that I kind of want, and this is one of the things that I wished was part of this collection, was the Metal Gear Acid and Acid 2 games, which were like these spin-off trading card games that Metal Gear had, where they combine sort of this trading card experience with stealth. Unfortunately, those didn't make the cut, but I do hope that Konami releases those down the road in another volume, because those are two exceptional games that have effectively been locked to the PSP for like ever, okay? Now, of course, obviously there's a whole slew of extra Metal Gear games, but I don't think everything's gonna make the cut, okay? I don't think shit like Portable Ops is gonna make the cut, and I don't think games like the Twin Snakes will make the cut, okay? Because there's just so much Nintendo shit thrown in there. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's a good day to be a Metal Gear fan, okay? It's a good day to wake up. It's a good day to see one of the most beloved franchises actually have its fan servicey sequel finally leave the PlayStation. Anyways, that's all I had to say. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.